NBA, Demon God Pangu dominates basketball Immortal myth, episode 31. At this moment, everyone's eyes were focused on Jiang Pan's body, wanting to see how he was going to handle this attack. Facing the opponent's double bag, Jiang Pan calmly coped without panic, only to see that his legs were slightly bent, and then left and right, easily getting rid of the defense. Immediately afterwards, a quick turn, like a heavy tank, crushed the basket, and then offered both hands to dunk. Boom. Beep. Above the huge explosion frame, there is also the whistle of the bottom line referee. When Jiang Pan faced the double upper bag, he not only opened the defense to score the ball, but also caused the opponent's foul and got a 2+1 chance. Oh. My. God, what do I see? Ladies and gentlemen, it turns out that cracking the bag folder can be so simple and rude. Seeing this goal, Kenny Smith immediately exclaimed. Flying Pig Barkley didn't seem surprised by this, and said leisurely, I just said that just now on the inside line of the University of Alabama, I can play casually on the field, let alone Jiang Pan. And Jiang Pan's explosive performance also stunned the three people on the scene of CTV5. Before today, they could only watch Jiang Pan through a few highlights. Since it is a collection, it is naturally the most wonderful shots captured, and the value of reference is actually not very large. You know, how strong a player really is, it is to see his performance in the game. Jiang Pan's attack is really unreasonable, but he just forcibly scored the ball, which is the best way to reflect personal ability, that is, the so-called mean planet. Director Zhang, then do you think Jiang Pan's ball is reasonable or unreasonable? Su-kun asked with a smile. Reasonable, of course reasonable. Zhang reasonable, said with a smile. When the personal strength is strong enough, it is reasonable to be unreasonable. When Zhang reasonable saw Jiang Pan with his own eyes such a strong performance in the game, he couldn't mention how happy he was. Because this is a player from the Celestial Empire. We have seen such words many times in reports from the United States. They will say that Jiang Pan is the O'Neill of the Celestial Empire, and I saw it with my own eyes today, and it was really like the report said. Su Jiqing's excited voice trembled a little. I think, at this moment, the fans of the Celestial Empire who are watching the game in front of the TV must also be very excited. Jiang Pan is the pride of the Celestial Empire, Su-kun also sighed. As he said. Far away on the other side of the ocean, the faces of the fans of the Celestial Empire all showed excited looks. How many years have they waited, and finally looked forward to a Celestial Empire player with such outstanding strength? It is as if a wish that has been buried in the heart for many years has finally been fulfilled today. That feeling of joy is beyond words. On the free throw line, Jiang Pan hit the iron with free throws. No way, this link, Jiang Pan, does belong to novices. Bang. Looking at the falling basketball, players from both sides actively competed for slots under the basket. At this moment, Jiang Pan rushed in from the free throw line, jumped up, completed the buckle, and forcibly beat 2+1 into 2+2. Such a scene has happened more than once, and in the past few games, Jiang Pan has always done so. Zhang's free throw 2+2 deduction can almost apply for a patent. In the past few games, he has staged such shots many times. Kenny Smith said leisurely. For the T&NT duo who saw the Jiang Pan competition for the first time, such a scene made them exclaim again. Jiang Pan's physical fitness is really strong, the basket is crowded, and he can still dunk the ball in this way. And looking at his bouncing height, it really doesn't look like a center can have. In the audience, Karl Malone and John Stockton were also shocked. This guy's talent has completely surpassed Shaquille. Let's just say that the performance of that round just now, this is simply an enhanced version of the Big Shark. Malone said incredulously. Seeing this scene, and then thinking about his career, he suddenly found that he was a tragedy. From the beginning of his career to the peak, he experienced Jordan's era, always being pressed by Jordan and not winning a championship. It was hard to survive Jordan's retirement, only to meet the rising star Shark, and he himself went down to the top. Now the OK combination in the West is on the verge of lawlessness, and he can't win the championship because of his bad luck. After seeing Jiang Pan's performance, he faintly had a premonition. He feels that the new era of the NBA in the future will belong to Jiang Pan. Stockton said suddenly, what if he really becomes your inside helper? Ma Long didn't think about it, and he decided, then I will definitely be cool. I'm even willing to go and hone his mid-range shots for him if necessary. Malone wasn't joking, as he grew older and more wanted to win a championship before he retired. So if Jiang Pan can join the Jazz, he is willing to make changes. Use the projection ability to help Jiang Pan open up the space of the inner line. Jiang Pan's current performance is absolutely historic, and he will participate in the draft after the season. The two think that once he enters the NBA, will he be able to play his style on that higher stage? Zhang Weiping said to the two people beside him. I think there is a great opportunity, and the reason why there are no Celestial Empire players to gain a foothold in the NBA is because of the gap in physical fitness. But this problem does not exist in Jiang Pan's body, and his physical talent can fully support him to play in the NBA. I think he's not only going to be able to play in the NBA, but he can even dominate the NBA. Su Jiqing's thoughts were said without reservation. However, some Celestial Empire fans still have doubts. After all, it is still a little too early to say such a thing. A lot of players play well in the NCAA, but they don't play in the NBA because it's two different levels of battleground. Our Celestial Empire fans have been looking forward to it for so many years, and it is really not easy to finally wait for such a player. Su Kun's tone could not hide the excitement in his heart. What do you think of Jiang Pan compared to Yao Ming in China? Zhang Weiping said again. A name finally appeared from everyone's mouth. Yao. Now in the native of the Celestial Empire, there is another talented player, that is, the 2.26 meters tall Dayo, who is the same as Jiang Pan, is a center forward position. After a heated discussion, the three compared the abilities of the two players in all aspects. Ultimately, they agreed. In addition to his height, Jiang Pan's various abilities have comprehensively crushed Yao Ming. The first half of the game ended imperceptibly amid their discussions. The University of Arizona took an absolute lead at 56-34, and the gap between the two teams has been stretched to 22 points. The course of the game was exactly what Barkley predicted. Jiang Pan single-handedly burst the opponent's inside line and led the team to build a huge lead. Episode 32. In the first half of the game, Jiang Pan recorded a double-double of 28 points and 15 rebounds, and this seems to have become his norm. At halftime, the CTV5 trio continued to introduce Jiang Pan to the fans of the Celestial Empire, and all kinds of praise were endless. The players on the bench at the University of Arizona cheered and held a huge 22-point lead, giving them absolute control of the game. Now they can sit back and relax. On the other side, on the bench at the University of Alabama, Emma Williams, Gerard Wallace, and others had solemn looks on their faces. They had made sufficient preparations before the game, but when it really came time to play, there was still nothing they could do about it. The defensive strategy of the two-person bag clip was easily cracked by Jiang Pan, and later they even tried the three-person bag, but the effect was still equivalent to nothing, which made them helpless. Moments later, the intermission ended and the second half began. On the first offense of the second half, Emma Williams burst into the inside line to challenge Jiang's penalty area. OHNO. His shot was ruthlessly sealed by Jiang, which was simply death. Looking back, Jiang and Gilbert played a blocking and dismantling and easily cut into the basket to complete the dunk. Jiang struck again, he broke through the defense of the other three and dunked the ball into the basket again, EASYGAME. Now that Jiang has scored 30 points, he led the University of Arizona to an offensive climax early in the second half, which is crazy personal showtime. God, Jiang Pan's crazy performance continues. Jiang Zai has no one to stop on the inside, no matter how many people the other side is defending, he can score the ball. OMG. Take a look. He knocked over the defender under the opposing basket. In this game, he was simply like a defensive machine, and the sound of violent buckles above the opponent's head continued to sound, destroying their hearts, and Jiang completely dominated the game. He delivered a blocker to Gerard Wallace on the defensive end, and Gerard failed to break through tonight, and then quickly played a defensive counterattack with Arenas, and he completed an empty catch with his left hand. Jiang's personal data has reached 45 points and 28 rebounds, which is the first player to get such data since the NCAA entered March Madness. By contrast, the two-gun combo at the University of Alabama hits like. They started the game well, but as the game went on, it got worse and worse. So far, Emma Williams has only scored 12 points, but he has shot 18 times, and that scoring efficiency is a disaster. Gerard Wallace was also not doing well, he only had 13 points, 2 rebounds, and was not very efficient. Between words. Jiang Pan just received the air relay from Arenas, and his left hand completed the air catch. Jiang Panto was high-spirited, and his two-gun sighed helplessly. Alabama's outside double guns are not playing well, but Arizona's inside double guns are bombarding indiscriminately, and the gap is clear at a glance. Kenny Smith kept explaining. Wait. Kenny, did you say something wrong? Double cannon? Where did the University of Arizona get another inside heavy gun? Charles Barkley asked with a frown. Kenny Smith laughed and replied, of course it's Jiang's left hand. In my opinion, Jiang Pan's left and right hands are 2 rows of heavy artillery. At this moment, the atmosphere of the entire stadium has been completely ignited. The fans kept shouting the name of Jiang Pan and the slogan of MVP. John, I suddenly have an urge to rob. Ma Long's eyes stared directly at Jiang Pan, and his eyes showed a thick color of greed. Robbery? Stockton looked at Malone with a confused expression. That's right. It's robbery. If I could, I would really like to rush to the pitch immediately, carry this guy to the office of the team general manager, and immediately get him to sign the contract. Hearing this, Stockton first looked stunned, and then nodded slowly. Yes, if it can really be like this, I will definitely commit a crime with you. As Malone's old partner, Stockton is very able to understand Malone's thoughts, because he shares the same desire. Jiang Pan's dominance of this stadium is really unprecedented. The University of Alabama was completely crushed. If he can bring such a performance to the NBA court, then I believe it will play a huge role in promoting basketball in the Celestial Empire. On the second-floor platform, Zhang Weiping looked at Jiang Pan's breathtaking performance, and he didn't know what words to use to praise him. Now I have every reason to believe that the Celestial Empire will give birth to a player who is even stronger than Yao Ming. Who would have thought that when we had high hopes for Yao Ming, Jiang Pan would suddenly come out of thin air and play better than Yao Ming? From the beginning to now, Su Jiqing's tone of voice has been in a state of excitement. This is the first time we have broadcast a match in Jiang Pan, and I believe that when domestic fans see Jiang Pan's explosive performance, they will be even more excited than us. As Su-kun expected, almost all the fans who are watching the game now are extremely excited in their hearts. And the media editors who work on the sports section are also working hard to write copy. As soon as the competition is over, they will be the first to publish. Now, fans all over the Celestial Empire are fiercely discussing Jiang Pan's performance. It turns out that this is the demon god Jiang Pan. Finally saw his game, it was even more powerful than the news reported. I don't know how to describe his performance, anyway, it's 2 words, awesome. Jiang Pan is good, this is the pride of our Celestial Empire. I think he can lead the team to NCAA championships. If he can really lead the team to win the championship, he can become the first player in the Celestial Empire to enter the NBA as a champion. It is said that now that his draft pick is in the top 10, just keep it like this, there will definitely be room for improvement. It's a pity that the network of the Celestial Empire is not yet developed. Otherwise, some forums will definitely be flooded with the name Jiang Pan. But the popularity of Jiang Pan's game is self-evident. CTV5 gave me a towel online and has broken the history of basketball. Interestingly, many student parties across the country have tried their best to make up various reasons for taking leave in order to watch the Jiang Pan competition. For example, directly citing the death of a loved one as a reason. And pretending to be sick, that is a common reason. To exaggerate, to do human useless par-tissue excision. And those students who were not able to get approval simply chose to skip school in order not to miss the competition. The big deal is to suffer a demerit plus beating. In addition to this part of the students, there are also many office fans. In order to watch the game is also to find a variety of high-sounding reasons. The leaders of the unit really do not approve leave, they would rather choose absenteeism and deduct wages. And Jiang Pan's performance did not live up to their sacrifice. For this game, it's worth it. Celestial Empire, set off a basketball fever. Episode 33. The game continues, but the victory and defeat have lost their suspense. In the end, the game was over, and the score was frozen at 98-65. The University of Arizona defeated the University of Alabama with a huge advantage of 33 points. It is worth mentioning that this is the first time in the history of the University of Arizona that it has advanced to the Final Four of March Madness. In the whole game, Jiang Pan scored 49 points, 31 rebounds, and 7 blocks. His scoring and rebounding set new personal highs, and rebounding was the highest record in March Madness. At the moment of the final whistle, the players on the bench at the University of Arizona immediately rushed to the court and celebrated wildly. Jiang Pan! Jiang Pan, MVP! MVP, MVP, MVP. At this moment, the fans at the scene were also shouting the slogan of MVP. Jiang Pan stood in the center of the Jazz's Energy Plan home field, and actually experienced the feeling of fighting at home. I finally understand why you are willing to substitute for Jiang. In the audience, Stockton said to Malin. Old man, if you have been partnering with this guy, you may have won the championship long ago. At this point, Karl Malone paused for a moment, and then continued, be bold, the NBA may not have the era of Michael Jordan. His last words still shocked Stockton. Jiang Pan is coming, there will be no Jordan's Bull Dynasty era? He didn't expect that Ma Long made such a high evaluation of Jiang Pan. Jiang Pan's performance today was indeed a complete conquest of the second elder Xuanqi. After the game, reporters interviewed Alabama's two-gun combination. Mo, it's a pity that you guys are out in March Madness. In this game, Jiang once again played against the sky. How does this guy make you feel? Xiao Mo pouted and said helplessly, this guy shouldn't be on the basketball court. He should have gone to save the planet, or be taken away by the FBI. Gerard Wallace said, I think Troy Murphy and Brandon Haywood are right. On the court, there is really a non-human mixed in. While talking, these two people recalled Jiang Pan's performance in the game today, which was really unreasonable. Hearing the answers of these two people, the reporter suddenly realized. He suddenly thought that after the last match, Jiang Pan said that his template should be Demon God Pangu. Now it seems that this description is too apt. Isn't Jiang Pan's performance on the court a demon god? Later, the players from the University of Arizona appeared at the post-game player press conference with the joy of victory. Jiang, today you defeated the strongest outside duo of March Madness this season. How do you feel in your heart now? Wouldn't it feel a sense of accomplishment? Faced with the reporter's question, Jiang Pan said very indifferently, I don't understand what you mean. They may be the strongest outside combination, but make it clear that Arizona is the strongest team. And I'm the strongest player. Jiang Pan's answer did not mean to be modest at all. Directly claiming to be the strongest player, except for him, it is estimated that no one dares to speak like this. Even Arenas and the others looked at Jiang Pan with a surprised expression. This guy seemed to be more and more inflated now. I heard that the people of the Celestial Empire have always been relatively modest, but how can this quality not be reflected in Jiang Pan's body at all? Hearing this answer, the reporter smiled non-committally, and then continued, but before you arrive, the NCAA's strongest interior lineman is Zach Randolph, and he will also be your opponent in the next game. Do you think you have the certainty of defeating him? Zach Randolph. An NCAA resounding name. He currently plays for Michigan State University and is recognized by the NCAA as the strongest interior player. NCAA's strongest interior lineman? Jiang Pan smiled slightly and replied, I only heard the sentence from you earlier. Before I arrived. After saying this, Jiang Pan directly got up and left, leaving everyone with a confused look. This guy doesn't seem to have a good temper. I don't know who said it quietly off stage. Seeing Jiang Pan leave, the reporter had to put the subject of the interview on Arenas. Gilbert, do you think you'll win the next game with such ease? Arenas shrugged and said, in my opinion, no team is our opponent right now, and don't compare Zach Randolph to Jiang, because there is no comparison between them. He wants to fight Jiang, let him smash 3 rebounds first. This answer made the reporter's face full of black lines. How could Arenas also become so arrogant? He had heard that the feeling was contagious, the state was contagious, and the temper was contagious. Without waiting for the reporter to speak, Arenas continued, as for Zach Randolph plus Jason Richardson, they may be a nightmare for many teams, but I plus Jiang Pan, specializing in nightmares. With this sentence, Arenas also learned Jiang Pan's appearance, turned around and left the scene of the press conference. Boy. What happened to this University of Arizona player? Now the scene of the press conference is left Arizona's head coach Humphries. He looked at his two lovers, and suddenly felt that he should also learn. He looked at the expressions on the faces of these reporters present, and they were all very embarrassed. Everyone looked at Humphries with wide eyes, looking like they wanted to say something, and they didn't know how to continue the interview. Seeing this, Humphries pulled his throat. Actually, I know what to ask without you having to speak. Then I'll get it blunt. Now we're in the Final Four, so don't ask if you have the confidence to beat your opponent, I just want to tell you. Our goal is to win the championship of the year. Compared to Jiang Pan and Arenas, Humphries' tone seemed to be more softened. However, after he said this, he also turned and left. The reporters at the scene were all at a loss. The temperament of these people at the University of Arizona has really undergone earth-shaking changes. Jiang, do you really have no problem with Zach Randolph next time? That guy is dark and hard, with a fierce face, which is not easy to deal with. After returning to the dressing room, Arenas said to Jiang Pan. Although at the press conference just now, they all put on a confident look, but that was just a mouthful. Black and hard? All right. I admit that he is indeed darker than me, but if it is compared to the hardness, Lao Tzu is absolutely crushed in all aspects. Jiang Pan replied disdainfully, but his words always sounded a little strange. Arenas looked at Jiang Pan's gaze and couldn't help but move down for a while. You're the toughest guy I've ever met. Episode 34. After the game, the major sports media in the United States and the Celestial Empire were frantically reporting. Especially on the side of the Celestial Empire, after the first live broadcast, it had a huge impact on the development of basketball in the Celestial Empire. When the fans saw Jiang Pan's performance in the game, they were beyond words excited. Demon God Jiang Pan opened a new episode of basketball in the Celestial Empire. The strongest player of the Celestial Empire has appeared, and the Demon God Jiang Pan rules the NCAA. Demon God Jiang Pan, a man who allows students to skip class and workers to miss work. The first person in Celestial Empire basketball changed owners, and Yao Ming was only the second. All kinds of news came overwhelmed, and the Celestial Empire once again set off a wave of comments. This game is much more exciting than those reports. Exactly. The writing skills of those editors are also too poor, and although they write Jiang Pan's power, they do not express that kind of artistic conception at all. CTV5 is also true, only now live broadcast the Jiang Pan match. They should have broadcasted a long time ago, so we missed the first 3 matches. It's good that now they broadcast it in time, at least they can see the rest of the game. The next game is the Final Four, the battle for the place in the final, and there are only 2 games left. What's the rush? Jiang Pan will be seen in NBA games next season, but I don't know which team he will be drafted by. No matter which team it is, as long as you can see Jiang Pan playing. The fans of the Celestial Empire are now completely focused on Jiang Pan. As for the OK combination, Iverson and Carter, the players who are usually discussed the most, they are all left behind. In the games played by Jiang Pan, his performance was almost better than a game. As long as he was on the court, it was like a needle of the sea god. His performance is not only stable, but also very efficient. Game 1, facing the University of North Carolina, he started with his team trailing in the first half, and after coming on in the second half, he went wild and helped the University of Arizona win. It was the first game of Jiang Pan's NCAA career and the beginning of his magical performance. Game 2, against the University of Notre Dame, he gained the trust of the whole team and made his first appearance as the team's starting center. In that match, he continued his magical performance, leading the team to a big victory and successfully advancing to the round of 16. If the first game only made him famous, then after defeating the University of Notre Dame, Jiang Pan's fame has been completely over. He then entered draft predictions and surpassed singles king Zhou Zhan to rank 9th. It was also at that time that the name of Jiang Pan attracted the attention of the United States and the Celestial Empire. Since then, Jiang Pan's performance has been out of control. In the third game, he faced the University of Kentucky, which has the NCAA's strongest interior defender, Tyshawn Prince, plus singles king Zhou Zhan. Originally thought that Prince would become the strongest magic weapon to restrict Jiang Pan, but when it came time to compete, he was completely beaten by Jiang Pan, without any power to fight back. And the strength proves why Jiang Pan will surpass Zhou Zhan in the draft prediction ranking. After the third game, Jiang Pan was completely popular, and many NBA teams were ready to rob him. In order to verify the authenticity of these news, CTV5 directly sent 3 commentators to the United States to broadcast the 4th game of Jiang Pan live. Now, they can be completely sure that Jiang Pan's strength is not boasting, it is really as powerful as the Demon God. After 4 games, after each game, Jiang Pan can bring new understanding to fans. His performance in the NCAA is absolutely unparalleled. Today, Jiang Pan is only 2 games away from the NCAA championship, and he only needs to lead his team to win 2 more games to successfully lift the NCAA championship trophy. The fans of the Celestial Empire are also looking forward to this moment. At the same time, scouts sent by NBA teams have also made an assessment report on Jiang Pan. Advantages: height and long arms, physical talent, strength comparable to Shaquille O'Neal, speed comparable to the league's top guard, absolute dominance in the box, explosive offensive ability under the basket, defensive coverage and wide range. Disadvantages: there are not many offensive means, the free throw shooting rate is poor, but it can often be made up for with supplementary deductions, and the temper is big. Player template? Shaquille O'Neal Demon God Pangu. Comprehensive evaluation: Jiang Pan's ability is enough to become the core of NBA teams. For Jiang Pan's player report, almost all scouts gave a consistent evaluation. It is worth mentioning that 3 different answers appear on his player template. The first is directly a question mark, because there has never been a player like him in NBA history, so Jiang Pan is the first, so he has no template. The second answer is Shaquille O'Neal, and if I had to give a template, he would be the only player in the NBA. As for the last answer, it is to quote Jiang Pan's own words, and his template is Demon God Pangu. In the comparison of advantages and disadvantages, compared to Jiang Pan's advantages, his only 3 shortcomings are completely negligible. It is normal that the ball is unstable, after all, Jiang is an inside player, and the elevation reaches 216 centimeters, the body center of gravity is high, and the ball control is unstable, which is completely understandable. And a poor free throw percentage is completely unproblematic for him, and even when he makes free throws, his teammates expect him to miss the free throw so that he can have the opportunity to make up for the dunk, so this is actually not a disadvantage at all. As for the point of temper, everyone's views are unanimous, and no one refutes it. This guy is not only hot-tempered, he simply doesn't put anyone in his eyes. Of course, this is only aimed at his opponent, and Jiang Pan is still very friendly to his own people. The management of various NBA teams, looking at Jiang Pan's player reports, has been completely shocked by him. One by one, they have already prepared the battle for Jiang Pan. What chips do we have now? If you can, take all the first-round picks for the next 3 years in exchange, plus some of the team's starting core right now. Mr. General Manager, we don't seem to have too many chips in our hands, I'm afraid it will be difficult to get him. What? Not having too many chips? I don't care if I try to trade, but it doesn't work. Tracy and Grant can be exchanged. I heard that the Magic team was even willing to trade Tracy and Grant in order to get the Jiang Pan. Oh? Is it? It seems that it is not enough to lose some blood, it depends on the situation, and when necessary, the stars can also be sent away. In order to compete for Jiang Pan, all teams in the NBA are carrying out crazy plans. Even, some teams do not hesitate to trade the stars. Episode 35. In parallel with March Madness, there is also the NBA playoffs. This season's Los Angeles Lakers, led by the OK combination, have been singing all the way. In the first round of the playoffs, they eliminated the Blazers by an absolute 3-0 margin and successfully advanced to the second round. In the second round, he had just won the fourth game of the series, sweeping the Kings 4-0 and advancing to the Western Conference Finals. 2 consecutive rounds have been swept to advance, which shows how terrifying the strength of this Lakers team is. Successive clean sheets have also given them great confidence. They even have a terrible goal, which is to win the championship with a complete playoff victory. If they can, they will set a new historical record. You know, even the Chicago Bulls team led by Michael Jordan did not achieve the feat of winning the playoffs, and now the Lakers are working hard for this goal. After defeating the Kings and advancing to the Western Conference Finals, the Lakers players were slightly relieved. Recently, they have also heard that there is a dark horse in the NCAA March Madness game, and the center of the Celestial Empire, Jiang Pan, is the key figure of this dark horse. On this day, Kobe Bryant completed training at the training ground, and when he was idle, he suddenly remembered Jiang Pan. He found some videos and sat on the sidelines and watched. At the beginning of this video collection, the picture of Jiang Pan smashing the rebound suddenly attracted Kobe's attention. In the video, Jiang Pan constantly dunks under the basket. There are also various shocking caps, showing an extremely terrifying physical talent. Whether it is the bouncing force or the speed of running, these should not seem to appear in a big man of 216 centimeters, but now it has appeared. Kobe's eyes narrowed slightly, and a thick look of shock appeared under his eyes. This guy's talent is so explosive. Bryant couldn't help but glance up at O'Neal, who was stretching. He suddenly felt that this young center of the Celestial Empire had the shadow of a big shark. Shaquille, come and see, the NCAA Celestial Empire Center, which has been very popular recently, will definitely exceed your imagination. Kobe couldn't help but say. Celestial Empire Center, NCAA? O'Neal waved his hand disdainfully, what's there to see? Can he be better than me? Although he said refusal, his body still walked over very honestly. Bryant pulled the progress bar back and played it from the beginning. Like Bryant's beginnings, O'Neal was equally shocked when he saw Jiang Pan smash the rebound. The thing of smashing rebounds is no stranger to him. But it was precisely because of this that he was shocked. Because he knew how much power it took to smash a rebound, and this center from the Celestial Empire was able to do it. This shows how powerful his physical talent is. This guy is very powerful, but that's it. After watching the first goal, O'Neal pouted and said that he still wouldn't believe that Jiang Pan would be more powerful than him. But as the video played, O'Neal felt more and more the excitement of Jiang Pan. Just say that his flying blocking performances, it is difficult for him to complete. What is even more exaggerated is that this guy's tall height and such a large weight can actually stage a free throw line dunk, and he is still the kind that does not step on the line. How? Looking at O'Neal's increasingly ugly look, Kobe Bryant smiled and said, is this guy's talent even better than yours? As evidenced by the video, O'Neal can't admit it even if he doesn't want to. He nodded slightly, well, I admit that this guy's athleticism is stronger than mine, but this does not mean that his strength is better than mine. There's never a shortage of physically talented players in this league, but it's not all about talent. The battlefield of the NBA is not as simple as you think. O'Neal's statement is right. It is difficult to gain a foothold in the NBA by talent alone, but is Jiang Pan really only talented? I'm afraid the answer is not. O'Neal just doesn't want to admit that Jiang Pan is better than himself. I heard that this kid will also choose to participate in the NBA draft after this season. If he can't be our helper, he may well be our worst enemy in the future. Kobe changed his previous laughing look and said seriously. If we were the champions of this season, we wouldn't have the chance to pick him, and there's only one way to get him, and that's to trade. O'Neal answered. Man, I'm not trying to recruit him. However, Kobe Bryant shook his head. You know, the OK combination is invincible in the world, what I want is to defeat him, Kobe Bryantly said loudly. Hearing this, O'Neal was not surprised. Because he knows that Kobe is a guy who does not admit defeat, and he has always been such a character. Nice, that's like your personality. O'Neal laughed. When he enters this league, I will let him experience what despair is. O'Neal is confident in his strength. He is now a veritable #1 center in the league. Even, O'Neal has the confidence to claim to be the #1 center in NBA history. A college student from the Celestial Empire? No kidding. The Lakers, who have the OK combination, don't have much interest in Jiang Pan, but the other teams are different. In addition to teams such as the Magic and Raptors, the Philadelphia 76ers also began to pay close attention to Jiang Pan under the introduction of Iverson and Uncle Mu. The management of the Jazz team was also attracted by Jiang Pan's talent. They are ready to form a lineup of John Stockton plus Karl Malone plus Jiang Pan before the second elder Swansea grows old, and strive to compete for the championship. Although there is still a long time before the NBA draft, these teams who want to get Jiang Pan have begun to pave the way for the draft. In the past few days, many media have broken the news about where Jiang Pan will go, and even many experts have made analysis for this. In the end, they came to such a conclusion. That is, no matter which team Jiang Pan goes to, the strength of this team will inevitably have a qualitative improvement. If it's a fishbelly team, then after owning Jiang Pan, it can at least rise to the height of the quasi-playoff level. If this is originally a team with a foundation, it will become a strong contender for the championship next season after getting Jiang Pan. A newcomer can have such a high evaluation. This is the strength of Jiang Pan. In the dormitory of the University of Arizona, Arenas looked at the news on the website and was very envious. Jiang, look, they are all about to break their heads for you now. Jiang Pan shrugged indifferently. That's their business, I said. I don't have any special requirements for where to play. All I think about now is an NCAA championship. Episode 36. One day later, all the teams that made it to the NCAA Final Four were announced. The University of Arizona has long identified its opponent for the next game, which is none other than Michigan State University. Michigan State University has two cores, Zach Randolph plus Jason Richardson. Both of them have quite good strength in the future, especially Randolph, who was an all-star level existence at his peak after entering the NBA. And now in the NCAA league, he is a well-deserved superstar, the NCAA's first insider, and even known as the big shark in the university. Jason Richardson is an extremely physical outside player, and his most impressive thing is his dunk, which is very watching, and his own strength is also good. At the peak of his NBA career, he was definitely a quasi-all-star level existence, and he was also a well-deserved superstar in the NCAA, with a draft pick reaching the top 3. The combination of Richardson and Randolph is Michigan State University's most powerful weapon. The other two teams that reached the Final Four were Dark Horses versus Giants, Seton University and Duke University. Wharton University is another dark horse in March Madness, besides the University of Arizona. The core of the team is Eddie Griffin. They had a much harder journey than the University of Arizona, but they ended up standing here. However, they are about to face Duke University, the strongest of the season, and if they want to advance to the finals, they are simply male to male. Jay Williams plus Michael Dunleavy plus Duntai Jones plus Sean Battier plus Carlos Boozer. A starting lineup like Duke University is daunting just to look at. It is not even an exaggeration to say that this lineup can almost become a set of rotations or even a starting lineup when thrown into the NBA. The Final Four battle was earth-shattering, and fans all over the United States were looking forward to that moment. On the side of the Celestial Empire, CTV5 also decided to broadcast it again, which caused a cheer from the Celestial Empire fans. Before the start of the Final Four match, some media experts in the United States also made predictions about these two matches. There is almost no suspense for Duke to advance to the final, and although Seton University has played well this year, it is almost impossible to cross the mountain of Duke. Now all the suspense is the University of Arizona and Michigan State University. It's hard to say who will make it to the finals between these two teams. From the comparison of the lineup, the strength of the two sides should not be much different. Although Arizona has a river, the opponent also has Zach Randolph, and the duel between these two forms the biggest attraction. On the outside, Arizona has a scorer like Gilbert Arenas, but Michigan State University also has Jason Richardson to match it. As for the other players, the two teams are not much different, so it is really difficult to say who can win. It depends on the state at the time of the game. The most discussed by these media experts was the University of Arizona and Michigan State University competitions. At Duke, there is little value in discussion. Unless Idaho University can play beyond normal, and Duke University plays abnormally, it is possible to break out of the cold, but the chance is too small. The situation is different in Arizona and Michigan, where the strength of these two teams is between the two teams. But because of some old ideas, most media experts still prefer Michigan State University. Only a small number of people chose to side with the University of Arizona. At night, Arenas tossed and turned in bed and couldn't sleep. Because tomorrow is the Final Four, he will face the strongest attacking guard this season, Jason Richardson. This guy has been in the top 5 for 3 consecutive draft predictions. Arenas' heart was not bottomed, and he was even a little nervous. He glanced at Jiang Pan, who was sleeping heavily, and thought that this product's heart was so big. Lao Tzu is so nervous when he meets Jason Richardson tomorrow. You're going to be the NBA's #1 center this season. Thinking of this, Arenas actually touched Jiang Pan's bed. Squeak. Although Arenas' movements were very light, he still made a sound, which woke up the sleeping Jiang Pan. The moment he opened his eyes, Jiang Pan saw a face that suddenly met his eyes, but he was frightened. Ugh! He exclaimed, but was covered by Arenas. Jiang Pan's eyes widened, thinking that someone was plotting to kill him. After struggling violently a few times, he saw the face clearly. Isn't it Arenas? Lying Groove, you are going to die. Jiang Pan brushed aside Arenas' hand and gasped in shock. Shoo! Be quiet, don't bark. I just thought about playing tomorrow, and against Jason Richardson, I was a little panicked. Arenas hurriedly explained. You fuck, even if you panic, don't go to my bed. If this is passed on, then my reputation will not stink. How can I make sister paper? Ahem. Arenas coughed lightly twice in embarrassment, and then said, Jiang, I really can't sleep now. You are also woken up. Do you want to go to the stadium for a bullfight? Gilbert Arenas is also a very competitive guy. He singled out almost every teammate on the team and won everyone. Only Jiang Pan, he has not singled out. After all, Jiang Pan has only entered the team not long ago, and he has never found a good opportunity. Bullfight? Jiang Pan couldn't help frowning. You can't sleep in the first place, and if you are abused by me again, won't you be even more unable to sleep? Arenas waved his hand. It's okay to be abused by you. Besides, I may not lose to you. Speaking of heads up, Arenas is still very confident. Hearing this, Jiang Pan was also interested. He suddenly thought of something, and then immediately sat up from the bed. You said I just remembered. I suddenly thought of a very beautiful trick, just to practice. In the name of bullfighting, Jiang Pan accompanied Arenas to the arena late at night and practiced this move. What about bullfighting, you said? I'm here to spar with you? Arenas was speechless for a while. Well, anyway, it's almost practiced. Since you have to find abuse, then I will fulfill you. Subsequently, Jiang Pan and Arenas had a head-to-head fight, and the final result was 10-1. Arenas was directly abused by Jiang Pan, and there was no way to fight back at all. I thought that Arenas' mood would become extremely lost. But who knows, after returning from the fight, Arenas was particularly happy. Jiang Pan couldn't help but be a little curious. You have lost like this, why are you still happy like a stupid ex? Arenas replied disapprovingly, you are so strong, I have a bottom in my heart. This answer made Jiang Pan look confused. Groove? Could it be that this guy still has masochistic tendencies? Episode 37. The next day, the United States ushered in the NCAA Final Four battle. First up were the competitions between the University of Arizona and Michigan State University. The game will be played at the Minnesota Timberwolves' home stadium, Target Center Arena. In the morning, the players from the University of Arizona got on the bus to the Target Center. Before they got on the bus, many girls came to practice, saying that they were practicing, but in fact, they came to see Jiang Pan. Jiang. I like you. I want to associate with you. Jiang. You are mine. At the scene of practice, these female students were screaming madly, and the most they shouted was Jiang Pan's name. There are also some girls who personally made posters for Jiang Pan and wrote some very ambiguous words on it. To say that these girls are bold is big, to be precise, open. If this were in the Celestial Empire, even if there were female fans who liked Jiang Pan, in this era, they would definitely not be so crazy. In the face of these enthusiastic female fans, Jiang Pan also waved symbolically to greet them. Now Jiang Pan is only 10 meters away from the bus, and if it is a weekday, he can walk in a few steps. But today, this short distance of 10 meters, he walked for nearly 10 minutes. And at a distance of 10 meters, he did not walk over, but was forcibly squeezed over, which shows how crazy these fans on the scene are. On this 10-meter road, Jiang Pan only felt that his whole body had been touched. Even touching some unspeakable places was taken advantage of by those crazy female fans. But he couldn't take care of this anymore, and now boarding the bus became his only luxury. A moment later, Jiang Pan finally boarded the bus with difficulty, which also made him slightly relieved. Jiang Pan casually found a place to sit down, and he found that his 4 pockets were all bulging. He reached out and pulled it out, and it turned out to be all notes. Jiang Pan had already guessed the contents of these notes, but he couldn't help but open a few. Without exception, these notes are all ways to ask for contact, and there are some confessions. What's even more frightening is that some girls have reached the extreme level of courage and bluntly want to do their hair with Jiang Pan. For example, do you want to drill wood on my sister and set fire to this life? What I miss is not saying dirty words, what I miss is trembling together. I want to do on you what spring does to cherry trees. Remember to go home when you are tired from playing, the meal is in the pot, and I am in bed. A lot of similar words, it's a bit unbearable. These people really are. Jiang Pan was speechless, full of mouth. You want to go to graduate school? Arenas and the others secretly glanced at it a few times, and saw that their faces all showed envy. The players of the whole team can enjoy such treatment, only Jiang Pan is alone, and the others are only gluttonous. Jiang, your peach blossom luck is too prosperous. But your celestial empire seems to pay attention to what yin and yang decay, and so on, so. Jiang Pan glanced at Arenas. What exactly do you want to say? Arenas pointed to Jiang Pan's bulging pocket and said with a sneer, I mean, don't you have too much in your pocket? If you can't fit it, I'm still empty here. Jiang Pan knew that he was going to say this, and immediately glared at him. Don't think so much about it, think about today's game. Saying that, Jiang Pan took out all these notes in his pocket and put them in his backpack. He won't throw it away, wait until he wins the championship, find a few of them, and celebrate together. But now he doesn't have that in mind. After all, March Madness is a tiebreaker, and he must put all his energy on the field and not allow any mistakes. Although with his current influence, even if he can't win the championship, the draft pick will not be low, but this is not the result Jiang Pan wants, not to mention, he promised Coach Humphries to lead the team to win the NCAA championship this season. In the evening, the players from both sides arrived at the match site smoothly. In the audience, 2 familiar figures sat down. One of them is none other than Timberwolves star, Kevin Garnett, while the other is Chauncey Billups. It's just that now Chauncey Billups is experiencing the trough of his playing career, and even makes him bear the reputation of parallel cargo prospecting. But he knows in his own heart that his strength is definitely not like this, he just hasn't played at the level he should. Unlike Billups, Garnett is the absolute heart of the Timberwolves. He led the Timberwolves to the playoffs for 5 consecutive years, but were eliminated in the first round 5 times in a row. It can be called the old first-round Wolf King. Garnett is already disappointed in the team, he has long wanted to strengthen the team, and the reason why he and Billups are coming to see this game is because of Jiang Pan. Garnett feels that Jiang Pan is the Timberwolves' preferred player for reinforcement, and no one will be more suitable than him. Chauncey, do you think it would have any effect if Jiang could join us and let me form the inner line Twin Towers with him? Garnett inquired at Billups. If he comes and I can't get the assist king, I will retire directly. Although Billups did not answer directly, the meaning of his words was already very obvious. In his opinion, once Jiang Pan and Garnett can be combined, it will definitely be a super nuclear weapon on the vertical and horizontal inner line. At that point, even Big Shark O'Neal was not afraid. In this day and age, interior players are still very important. There has always been a popular saying in the basketball world, those who get insiders win the world. Therefore, when many teams are built, the first thing they consider is to have a strong center. And Jiang Pan happens to be a super big center, so he is now so good. KG, this game has 2 super interior lines, and Zach Randolph of Michigan State University is also very strong. Do you think Jiang will be able to defeat him? Chauncey Billups said leisurely. Zach Randolph? Well, I admit that this guy does have good strength, but compared to Jiang, I always feel that he is inferior. Maybe the strength of the two of them will not be too different, but Jiang's physical talent is much better than him, Jiang's ceiling is higher, you know what I mean. Garnett's words are very pertinent, not biased towards Jiang Pan, but expounding a fact. Jiang Pan's physical talent is visible to the naked eye, and in comparison, Randolph does not appear to be so outstanding. If the team had to choose one of the two, it would be Jiang Pan. Even if Randolph is now recognized as the NCAA's #1 interior lineman, the gap in talent determines his ceiling. Good. I share your opinion and hope that the management of the team will seize this opportunity and pocket this guy. Billups' face showed a thick look of expectation. He is now eager to prove himself, but this team has really no talent other than Garnett. Billups also needed a partner that suited him. In his opinion, Jiang Pan is the best choice. Episode 38. In addition to Kevin Garnett and Chauncey Billups, the scene of the game also gathered some beautiful women, and the camera was shining in the audience in the front row. At this time, two young and beautiful faces appeared on the big screen above the court. It's Jessica Alba and Scarlett Johansson. Jessica Alba is a famous actress in the United States who began her acting career as a teenager. This year, she is only in her early 20s, which is a good year. Scarlett Johansson is not to mention that she, like Jessica Alba, started her acting career very early, that is, the widow sister in the words of fans in the future, the one who made Kevin Durant want to drink bath water. Born in '84, she is only 18 years old this year, but she has already come out of the pavilion, an absolute beauty embryo. Jessica, did you come to such a cold place in Minnesota just to watch a Jiang game? Scarlett Johansson asked, puzzled. Now she actually has no interest in basketball, and the reason why she is sitting here is completely dragged over by Jessica Alba. And Jessica Alba has been deeply attracted by Jiang Pan since watching the highlights of the competition. In just a few days, she has already turned fans on Jiang Pan Road, and came here to watch the Jiang Pan game. Of course. If it weren't for him, who would come to such a cold place? Jessica Alba replied with a smile. When did you become so interested in basketball? Scarlett Johansson was a little speechless. Anyway, she has no interest in basketball. In her opinion, this is a game of 10 people grabbing one ball, which is really boring. Basketball is not the point is that you don't think the center of this celestial empire is very handsome. Saying this, Jessica Alba's eyes straightened. Just now, when Jiang Pan was warming up, he staged a 360-degree crotch change dunk in the air. The whole set of actions is simply dashing. Scarlett Johansson looked at Jiang Pan, who was warming up, and she nodded slightly. Handsome is quite handsome, and her muscles are also very strong, but she still doesn't understand something. Why does Alba like a basketball player so much? Scarlett Johansson decided to pay attention to Jiang Pan, wanting to see what he let his best friend find. At this moment, the players on the pitch are taking time to warm up. On the sidelines, TNT reporters did pre-match interviews with the managers of both sides. The reporter first said to the head coach of Michigan State University, "Before you know it, this is already the Final Four battle of March Madness. Your opponent is the biggest dark horse of the season, the University of Arizona." After March Madness began, they almost swept all the way to the last four, and every game was a big victory, and the strength was unfathomable. So for this upcoming game, are you sure to beat them? Faced with reporters' words, the head coach of Michigan State University immediately replied, "Of course, we have absolute confidence to beat them. Maybe in the eyes of many fans, they are a dark horse, but in the eyes, they are just an ordinary team. You just said that they swept their opponents all the way, why shouldn't we? You should have seen the support of those media experts before the game, and our approval rating reached more than 75%, which is a reflection of absolute strength." Later, the reporter came to the head coach of the University of Arizona, Humphreys, and also interviewed him. "Coach Humphreys, I interviewed the other side just now, and they said that they have absolute confidence to defeat you. What do you think about that?" Humphreys waved his hand disapprovingly. "I don't know where their confidence comes from, maybe it is given by those experts and the media. Indeed, in the eyes of these media experts, they are a better team. But what I want to say is that the game is never about words." The reporter then asked, "Then do you think Jiang Pan can withstand the impact of Zach Randolph today?" Hearing this question, Humphreys wanted to laugh a little. What is it that Jiang Pan can withstand the impact of Zach Randolph? In his eyes, Jiang Pan and Zach Randolph are not at the same level. In front of Jiang Pan, Zach Randolph is a fart. I am too lazy to answer this question. You should ask Zach himself, to see if he is ready to confront Jiang Pan. On the court, Zach Randolph and Jason Richardson are doing some communication. "Jason, you're in charge of keeping an eye on Gilbert Arenas. This guy is an outside core player at the University of Arizona, and as long as they target him, their outside strength will be greatly reduced. As for that Celestial Empire center, I have long wanted to meet him. I want to see how much strength he can play in front of the NCAA #1 center." Randolph looked at Jiang Pan on the opposite side and said, "Don't worry, in front of me, Gilbert's score will not exceed double digits. But you have to be careful, that Celestial Empire center is much more difficult to deal with than Gilbert." Jason Richardson was afraid that Randolph would be careless, and he reminded him again. Randolph said disdainfully, "Don't worry, don't forget that I am the NCAA's #1 interior lineman. On the other side, Arenas said to Jiang Pan while doing shooting practice, after the game starts, the two of us will play more blocks and dismantle to make the opponent defenseless. There's no need for that, just leave it to me. Jiang Pan answered casually, just these players on the opposite side, there is no need to consider any tactics, anyway, as long as he can squeeze under the basket, it is an invincible existence. So arrogant? Arenas was a little surprised. This is not arrogance, it is self-confidence. You all say that Zach Randolph is the NCAA's #1 interior lineman, but in my opinion, he is a reckless man who sells the lead. Jiang Pan did not take the so-called NCAA #1 inside line into account at all. What do you mean by inserting the first bid? Arenas looked at Jiang Pan blankly. That means he's very dish. Jiang Pan said with a smile. Then you just say no, what kind of cultural people are engaged in? Arenas was speechless for a while, Jiang Pan, and he spoke the idiom of the Celestial Empire, where could he understand? Illiterate. The culture of our great Celestial Empire is profound, if you want to hold my thigh, then you have to learn more. Big and profound? What does this mean? Arenas is confused again. Episode 39. The opponent of the University of Arizona today is not easy to deal with. Especially Jason Richardson and Zach Randolph, two core members of Michigan State University. Jason Richardson is currently 5th on Draft's predicted draft rankings. And Zach Randolph is recognized as the NCAA's #1 interior lineman. This combination of inside and outside will cause a lot of trouble for the University of Arizona. At the same time, the Celestial Empire, the commentators sent by CTV5 today are Zhang Li and Yang Jian. At this time, the two of them were introducing the situation of the two teams to the fans of the Celestial Empire. This is the second time CTV5 has broadcast an NCAA game, so Celestial Empire fans don't know much about NCAA teams. Before that, they could only get a rough idea of intelligence through a few reports. So most fans don't know which team has the stronger squad and which player is more outstanding. Before the start of this match, the major media were frantically playing up the showdown between Jiang Pan and Randolph. The two of them, one is a Celestial Empire center who rose as a dark horse in March Madness, and the other is the NCAA's first interior lineman, and this game will also be the first meeting between the two, and it is still unknown how the victory or defeat will be. The last match at the University of Arizona, CTV5 of the Celestial Empire was broadcast, allowing the fans of the Celestial Empire to see firsthand the demeanor of Jiang Pan on the court. And this game, the pre-match rendering was very sufficient, which made the expectations of the Celestial Empire fans directly full. The biggest highlight of this match is the duel between Jiang Pan and Randolph. The duel between the two of them will affect the entire game. Yang Jian analyzed seriously. Yang Jian's words, Zhang Li also agreed. Everyone knows that in the first few games at the University of Arizona, they won so easily. Every game almost always wins by big scores, which is actually unreasonable. It's a good thing to beat your opponents, but there are also certain disadvantages. Because successive big wins inevitably inflated the mentality of the players, which led to their lack of rigor in the game, which is likely to have serious consequences. And now the University of Arizona has this risk, afraid that they don't pay enough attention to their opponents on the court. Zhang Reasonable continued to analyze, his words were not unfounded. He is a senior basketball worker, has a deep insight into basketball, and what he said, in fact, has some truth. There is a saying in the Celestial Empire called "Proud soldiers must lose," and the University of Arizona, which won consecutive big scores, is now likely to become a proud army due to the continuous big win streak. All the fans of the Celestial Empire secretly pinched their sweat for Jiang Pan. Moments later, the pre-match warm-up is over, the starters from both sides are on the pitch, and the game is about to begin. Beep, with a whistle from the referee, players from both sides walked towards the center circle. Jump. Ball. Jiang Pan versus Zach Randolph. The Black Bear Randolph looked at Jiang Pan's eyes and immediately became fierce and serious. It looks like the smell of gunpowder is already between Jiang and Zach. I can't wait to see them in line now. The commentary of the American native in this game is still NT's Kenny Smith and Charles Barkley. In the center circle, the referee throws the ball high. Randolph saw the opportunity to jump, but just when he was about to touch the basketball, a palm in front of him was behind him, and in front of him, he took away the ball. After landing, Jiang Pan rushed to the front court at full speed, and the speed was like a bolt of lightning. Bang Kara! Arenas sent a long pass and assisted Jiang Pan to complete the empty catch. This move, Jiang Pan has been staged 3 times in the NCAA field, and has never failed. However, this wasn't the secret weapon he practiced last night. I think this opening can be your exclusive. Arenas said with a smile. It can be considered. Jiang Pan answered Arenas. But this is not comparable to the trick you practiced last night. Saying that, Arenas' mind recalled the picture in the training ground last night. That's the real trick. At this time, the audience is in the audience. In the first goal of the opening, this guy showed his amazing physical talent, which is really enviable. Kevin Garnett looked at Jiang Pan's opening performance, squinted his eyes, and suddenly sighed. You know, Garnett's own athleticism is very explosive, and his bouncing ability and speed are the top existence in the inside. However, when he saw Jiang Pan's performance, he immediately bowed down. His so-called athletic talent is simply not worth mentioning in front of Jiang Pan. Look at Zach Randolph, he doesn't seem to understand what is going on. Billups on the side said with a smile. Don't say it's him, if it's me, it's probably the same ignorance. Garnett shook his head slightly, the speed of Jiang Pan was too fast. He didn't think he could block the kind of attack that Jiang Pan had opened. If you want to stop Jiang Pan, there is only one way. Give up the jump ball. At the same time, CTV5 is in the live broadcast room. What a ball. Another opening like this, if Jiang Pan and his teammates have been able to maintain this sense of excitement, I don't think it should be a problem for them to win the game. Seeing Jiang Pan's opening performance, Zhangqing was very excited. This is the second time he has seen Jiang Pan play, and he finds that the more he looks, the more he likes it. The first goal of the opening game fully demonstrated the desire of the University of Arizona to win. Yang Jian smiled with satisfaction. The word arrogant soldiers must lose has not been reflected in the body of the University of Arizona. At first, CTV5's two commentators were worried that the University of Arizona would go down the path of pride. But now it seems that they are completely overthinking. The Final Four has arrived, and Jiang Pan will only be more focused. Episode 40, Come On. Jiang. In the audience of the Target Center, the fans immediately shouted. Especially these female fans in the stadium, the screams are rising and falling, and one louder than the other. Jessica Alba and Scarlett John are also very excited. Especially Scarlett John knows she didn't have much time to watch the game, and she had never seen such a picture. So when she saw Jiang Pan's performance, she was immediately shocked, and even her mouth opened into an O shape. This mouth shape, losing Chanel's flaming lipstick, makes people think of it. Jessica. I finally understand a little now. Why do you like Jiang? Scarlett John said leisurely. Her eyes were glued to Jiang Pan, and she was reluctant to leave for a moment. Alba looked at her with a floral look, and immediately smiled. My eyes are not bad. Isn't your little pony Fleetfoot Emperor also moved? Hearing this, Scarlett John was a little embarrassed. He's really handsome. However, Scarlett nodded very honestly. I didn't find basketball players so handsome before. It's Mo. Jessica Alba did not shy away from saying, but sister, I am very generous. If you also fancy him, I don't mind introducing him to you. She is older than Scarlett John and is more open than Scarlett. You. Don't talk nonsense, I just think he played basketball better, no. Nothing else. This last sentence, Scarlett John said very quietly and weakly. Even she herself did not believe such nonsense. This careful thought of hers escaped Alba's eyes. Alba smiled again and said, okay, don't pretend in front of me, what you think in your heart, you can't fool my eyes. Such an excellent man, I really don't mind sharing it with my good sisters. And I think the three of us will have a great time together, monographs. Speaking of this, Scarlett Johnson no longer pretends to be reserved. She looked directly at Jiang Pan, licked her lips, and suddenly said, Jessica, I think Jiang is so domineering, he looks full of strength and has big muscles on the court. You say, men with big muscles, are they strong everywhere? Scarlett's words directly stunned Jessica Alba. She looked at the good sisters beside her with a stunned expression. Obviously, she still looked embarrassed just now, so she suddenly became more open than her. This. Maybe, if you have a chance, just try it. Saying this, a hot color appeared in the eyes of both of them. Looking back, Zach Randolph wanted to get back on the court, and he decided to teach Jiang Pan a lesson in singles. Jason Richardson took the ball through the half, saw Randolph reach out and asked, and immediately gave the ball over. After receiving the ball, Zach Randolph signaled his teammates to pull away. At this moment, all the fans stood up from their seats, and the picture they were most looking forward to finally arrived. Come. Jiang, Zach. Zach. The fans at the scene were also divided into two factions, one supporting Jiang Pan and the other supporting Randolph. It sounds like the supporters of the two players are on par. It's just that in the voice shouting Jiang Pan's name, it can obviously be heard that there are many more female fans. Who makes Jiang Pan look more handsome, tall, and powerful? Rookie, I'll blast you. Big Black Bear Randolph faced Jiang Pan and actually sprayed a trash word. The character of the Black Bear has always been dull, even a little humble, and rarely canon. But I don't know why, when he encountered Jiang Pan, he wanted to spew out. Perhaps he knew Jiang Pan's strength, so he motivated himself in this way. Jiang Pan couldn't help but frown. He thought that this guy had taken the wrong medicine. It's pretty cute to listen to you squirt trash. Jiang Pan originally wanted to return to Randolph again, but felt that there was no need for this, so the conversation turned and it became this sentence. But then again, the Black Bear's old criticism and garbage talk is really cute, and Jiang Pan will not be angry for a while. Randolph, on the other hand, looked at Jiang Pan with a confused expression. Lovely? God's cute? Lao Tzu finally had the desire to spew trash talk. How come this guy didn't give face at all, but was said to be cute? This trash talk is too much of a failure. Randolph was stunned for a moment, and without further thought, he immediately attacked. I saw him sitting on his back to Jiang Pan, wanting to crush with his own strength. This is also his most sure offensive method on the inside, and it can be said that it is a trick that is eaten all over the world. However, the next moment, Randolph found that his trick of relying on eating had no effect on Jiang Pan at all. No matter how he sits, he can't sit on Jiang Pan. Jiang Pan defended a pillar of Optimus, and Randolph put his arm around his waist and put his hands up and down, but Jiang Pan still did not move. Zach, watch the time. Outside, Richardson saw that there was little time left to attack, and hurriedly reminded him. However, this sound made Randolph panic, and he looked up to see that there were only 2 seconds left in the attack. So, he immediately closed the ball and turned to shoot. Snap. A crisp sound sounded above his head. Jiang Pan's volleyball-style big hat directly fanned the ball, and the terrifying power burst out, and once again flew the ball fan near the middle circle. The next moment, he staged the picture of a Super 9 fast again, rushing to the front court at a very fast speed to get the basketball. Immediately afterwards, a stunned scene happened, and Jiang Pan, which rushed at full speed, jumped directly outside the three-point line. At this moment, everyone at the scene was stunned. I'll make a big deal. Jiang Pan, is this going to do? A good fast attack and violent buckle almost don't. Jiang Pan, what is this trouble? Under the gaze of everyone in the audience, Jiang Pan jumped outside the three-point line, glided a long distance in the air, and finally entered the paint area. In the way of picking the basket, the ball is put into the basket. Ugh. The goal is scored. The moment the goal was scored, the audience fell silent. The commentators, the fans, and the players on both sides were stunned. Everyone's eyes widened in horror and they were dumbfounded. They've seen a jumping dunk from the free throw line, and they've never seen a jumping layup from outside the three-point line, for the first time. Oh. My. God. Oh. My. God, what do I see? What do I see? Jiang actually jumped from outside the three-point line for a layup and put the ball in. Charles, tell me quickly, is this a dream? On the commentary table, Kenny Smith covered his eyes and exclaimed. Nope. Kenny. This is not a dream. It's true. Barkley slapped himself and said in shock, Jiang, he really took off from outside the three-point line for a layup. Flying Pig Barkley's tone was equally excited. Jump out of the three-penny and soar for a layup. He has lived for decades and has never seen such a picture in reality. Come on. Jiang. At this time, the fans at the scene broke out into a scream again. But now the referee is confused, and the scorer doesn't know how many points to add for a while. But in theory, it's really a 3. Because Jiang Pan jumped out from outside the three-point line. Finally, the scorer flashed, adding 3 points to the University of Arizona. 5-0.